Hi, it's Andrew and welcome to another edition of the Performance Intelligence Podcast, the podcast about all things human performance. Optimize performance through adapting your physical, psychological, and emotional state. Dr. Michael Gervais is one of the world's leading high-performance psychologists with an obsession about the relationship between the mind and human performance. Michael's groundbreaking work has been instrumental in helping athletes and sporting teams achieve their personal best. And his sporting clients include the US Olympic beach volleyball team, Olympic athletes, NBA players, Formula One racing. And for 9 years, he partnered with coach Pete Carroll at the Seattle Seahawks, helping them to an NFL superbowl championship in 2014. Michael's business Finding Mastery consults to Fortune 500 CEOs and leading organisations. Over 100,000 people, we're fact-checking this, JC, over 100,000 people at Microsoft have participated in the Finding Mastery training program. As host of the Finding Mastery podcast, Michael takes you inside the minds of the world's most extraordinary thinkers and doers. His impressive guest list includes Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, Howard Schultz, the founder of Starbucks Coffee, Ray Dalio, one of the world's leading hedge fund managers, psychologist Dr. Brené Brown, best-selling author Simon Sinek, we're going to be here for a long time, and 9-time NBA championship Steve Kerr. And on a personal note, Michael has been helping John Clarke, or JC, and I behind the scenes in the work that we're doing around mental skills with the Manly Sea Eagles and some of the work that I'm doing with the Wallabies. Dr. Michael Gervais, welcome to the podcast.
It's great to be here with you guys. Thank you for the warm introduction. So kind. And I'm always looking forward to speaking with you guys. So thank you for including me in your passion here.
Well, it's very reciprocal. When I read that out to you, I'm curious, what response do you have? Do you listen to that and go, yeah, blah, 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 this is all just my body of work? Or do you sometimes have that lag time and go, this guy's pretty impressive? Who's he talking about?
Oh, God. You know, I'll tell you what was happening when I was watching the choices you were making to get a better understanding of what you wanted to bring forward. And like some folks will bring forward like, okay, so Gervais worked on the edge with like Red Bull Stratos, where Felix Baumgartner jumped from 130,000 feet and the world didn't know if he was going to land intact. You know, those types of like, so you didn't go there and you didn't go to the Olympics. So you went to—
It was in the first draft, Baumgartner.
Oh, it was. Yeah,
it was. Yeah.
So I'm kind of listening for what's important to you. And I think that's like, I've never been asked that question, but I'm trying to listen hard about what's important to you. And so that's kind of the thing. And it's cool. Like I feel, I grew up on a farm. Like I grew up with little means. We weren't poor. We weren't rich, like, but it was it wasn't a working farm. It was just, during the winter, we had to, make sure our pipes were warm enough to have running water. Like it was like a real thing. And so to hear all that stuff feels like, holy moly, like what a life. And I never thought that I would be in the world of high performance. It was never an ambition. I wasn't interested in it as a kid. And even through graduate school, I'd never had this idea like I want to work with the best. That was not it. I wanted to work with people that were as obsessively, maniacally committed to figuring out like how we can be better, like at the most progressive clip possible. So I personally come from action sports where, the whole culture is built on progression. And that's code for how fast can you become really good and how far can you take it once you're kind of at the edges of your potential. So I just wanted to work with people that were as interested in that as I was. And it happened to take me to, folks that understood the same language and were asking and demanding of me to help them. And so, that's a long way of saying I feel grateful. And so thank you for the warm welcome again.
Thank you for saying you've never been asked that question, because that's a podcast that there's two things you want to hear in an interview. One, I've never been asked that, or that's a really good question. So the pressure's on you, JC.
Come on, JC.
It was 1-0 to me last time, Dr. Mike. But he started well, Maisie. Dr. Mike, I just, obviously that's an incredible introduction, and some of the way, some of the people you've worked with has been amazing. Just on you, how do you show up today? when you're doing something like this as a podcast, do you follow a process in terms of getting into the right mindset? Or, it makes me think about that, the way you explain confidence, that perception of your ability versus your perception of task. Have you done so much of this stuff now that you can just roll into it? Or, just can you unpack a little bit of that for us?
That's a cool question. Yeah, I think early.
He's happy now.
Yeah, right. Okay, we're good.
Imagine if he said, "That's a really shit question, JC."
Yeah. Oh, you know what? If we have permission, I'm going to let it rip now. Like, if you ask me the same question that I've been asked 1,000 times, I'll say, "Hey, okay, come on."
No, please do. If we do that, like we want to have an authentic conversation, even for people to listen to stuff that you've spoken over and over again. So yeah, let it rip.
Yeah, that's cool. Early in my career, I'll tell you this story. It was really early in my career. Now I've studied, I think I was just at the end of my PhD for sports psychology, the psychology of sporting excellence. And I was asked to go do an international presentation at the large body of sports psychologists, like the international body. And when I was writing my kind of speech, if you will, and putting my deck together, I was like, yeah, this is going to be good. Like, I really liked it. And then fast forward, 4 weeks later, and I'm in Athens, Greece, and I'm backstage, and the room is filling up. There's all that buzz that you guys are familiar with. And I kind of look out behind the curtain, and I saw a bunch of people there. My heart spiked, bang. And I could feel like, I felt like this phony. I felt like I was going to get exposed. I was wearing a suit. I don't wear suits, I was presenting like I was an expert in something, but I was just brand new at it. So all of this imposter syndrome was happening. That was my thinking, but my body turned on. I could feel the sweat bead under my hair. And I thought, oh man, I'm going to start dripping. And then I quickly thought to myself, oh, you know what? This is what you study. This is what you know. Breathe. Kind of get yourself together. It's cool. It wasn't working. I was breathing, it wasn't working. And then like an accelerant spiral down into the toilet of confidence where I was like, now I'm really exposed because I'm going to talk about the psychology of excellence in front of my peers and I'm a disaster. I could feel my pits starting to heat up. My buddy is standing next to me and he doesn't know because it's kind of a private experience at this point. I'm not flushed with sweat or I'm not shaking or anything, but I know I'm on the verge of it going well or not well. And he comes by and he goes, hey, you see that dude in the front row? And I go, yeah. He goes, you know the theory you're challenging? I said, yeah, of course. And he says, that's him. That's Dr. Yalom. Oh my God. So he accelerated a third time.
Thanks for that.
So now I'm in a space now. And breathing's not working, self-talk isn't working. None of the tools that I study are working. So I reach into my pocket and I'm fumbling around and I look at one of my business cards because I don't know what I was doing. And I didn't have an email address. It was the first time I had business cards. I didn't have an email address on it. It was kind of the beginnings of emails, to date myself here. And I thought one more time, this is the fourth turn. I go, what a fraud. They're going to want to ask you questions. You don't even have your flipping email together. So I flipped over the back of my card, grabbed a pen and started writing my email down. And when you're nervous and you're kind of all over the shop and you're trying to fit something on a piece of paper and it's like down the edges and the side, like because your spatial skills are off. Okay, so that happens like 2 or 3 cards. Then I dial in one more turn and I'm like, ooh, okay, good. That one, I can hand that one out. I get to the next card. Spacing, penmanship feels right. Oh, I can turn that one. 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. And before I know it, I popped my head up and I got so lost in this simple task that when I popped my head back up, I was back. I was back to me. So all the noise that was going on in the background and all the physiological stuff that was taking place, I accidentally found this process to help me be me, to help me be present. And I needed it because I didn't know how to be fully present. And here's what was taking place. I thought that moment was bigger than me. So I was seeing it as a big moment. And in relationship to that big moment, I felt small. And I said, sorry for the locker room moment here. I said, fuck that. I can't live this way. This idea that like there's big moments in life, I think it's flawed. So what I did is I made this fundamental commitment to myself that I need to understand how to be great in the present moment. And so that was something I could go forward and train. If I could dissolve this idea that there's big moments and less important moments, I could train being present. And that created this pull for me. And so it's a long story to get to this simple idea, is that I've now been practicing being present for the last, call it 20 some years. And I wish I was better, but I'm much better than I was 20 years ago. And so to prepare for this moment, I've been practicing that for 25 years, right? So this is the only moment I get. And again, this is the only moment I get. And again, so I could keep playing that game out. So it allows me to practice being fully present. And my job is just to do my best and try my best. And if it's well received, cool, not my business. And if it's not well received, but I was doing my very best, that's all I can do. And that's what I ended up, for the last 20 some years, like helping teach and train those same practices so that we can be fully present, so we can meet the demands of the moment eloquently, artistically, in a high performance way.
Thanks for that insight, mate. That's very helpful, I would imagine.
Hey, and also, let's get something straight. We've got a largely Australian audience. If you don't say fuck, they'll stop listening. So you don't have to apologize.
Yeah, right. Okay. I'm in good company. Yeah, great. But I think, JC, you've probably felt that too, right? Right, where you felt like the moment was big or too big, and then you've got to do something to get yourself together. So, okay, let me go back at you, JC. How do you do it?
You can tell he's a podcast.
Yeah. The interesting bit for me there was, Mike, is the failure of the tools that everyone talks about, the breathing, the self-talk, the this. So it just makes me think about the importance of the level of your preparation and the depth of your preparation. I think that's, from what I could tell, what you were saying there. It's the overnight success of 20 years, isn't it? Is what you basically speak to allow you to be present more often in the big moments. So, I think that would be something on reflection of my career is, did I go to the levels and the depth of preparation that I needed to allow me to be present and present myself in the best possible way I could on the big stages? It's probably, brought up more questions than answers, really, what you've said there, mate.
I know. Yeah, I appreciate that. Do you guys have kids?
2 girls.
Yeah, I collect them. I've got 4.
Zone defense, is a whole. So I have 1. So I have a very different, like totally different experience. But
I can send you some of mine. Like we could organise like a 3-month sabbatical. You can choose. Well, Michaela's in year 12, okay. So she's studying. But Archie's he'd love going to LA. Or Millie's 3 and Sophia's 4. That'd be fun. That'd be a good experiment.
Yeah, I remember. So the reason I bring up kids is because, like, this is so crisp for me, and I'm hoping it is for you guys, is that, like, their safety, their physical safety matters, right? Of course. And if there's a bus coming, I'm not hesitating. I'm right in front of them. I'm pushing them out of the way. I'll bite the asphalt before they will. And even when I say it, I'm like, fucking right. That's the man I want to be. And if I don't practice and prepare, I might hesitate. I might. And that would be so flippin' tragic that I don't know how I would live going forward. And I want to just say out loud that I would do the right thing. But there's a brain in here, and the brain's dictum is survival. And we have to fight against the small-minded dictum of just survive. Now, when something really, really, really matters, you will do whatever it takes. In this case, our kids, saving our kids. But there's a chance that you could hesitate, even in that circumstance. And so then I crosswalk that to what really, 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 really matters to me. And if I can get that crystallized, then I'm now going to live way more freely, because I'm trying to make that happen. And when I realized, I was overwhelmed as a young kid. My dad was an alcoholic drug user. Mom was codependent. So I didn't know what the truth was growing up in that situation. Like, there was this shadow game that I was like exposed to. And so I wouldn't call it traumatic, but I just didn't really know what the real truth was, because mom was making up this story that we're okay, we're good. But, where's dad? Why isn't he home for dinner? he was at the strip bar, or he was wherever he was. I don't know where he was. And like, I'm 6 years old, falling asleep, waiting for him to come home, in my food, if you will. So there's a long way of me getting to this idea that when you know what really, 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 really matters, all the other noise fades away. And early on, I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to be included. I wanted to know that I was okay. My greatest weapon was performance. So I was maniacal, like I was talking about, of being great in the things that mattered to me, whether it was in school or sports or whatever. And other people's opinions was like overwhelmingly loud. And once I did the deep work, I'm like, fuck that. That is whack. That's child's play. That's adolescence play. Like, if I'm going to be a man in this world, I got to get down with the stuff that really matters and have a recklessness to the opinions of other people and be so purpose-minded and collect, a community and be part of a community that goes, right, let's go get that. Let's be radical with what we're trying to do here. And that force is, you guys know it when you're on a team where noses are pointing in the same direction and everyone's a bit of a competitive savage and it's like, let's go get it. I want to be in those rooms and those teams for the rest of my life. And I want to be shoulder to shoulder with people that are like, I got you. I know, Gervais, you're going to make some mistakes. You're going to fumble. You don't have to pretend. I got you. And I say the same thing to them. So that's got to know your purpose. Got to be very clear about your personal philosophy. You got to really understand how to be a great teammate so you get great teammates in return. And then when you're in that energy, all the noise starts to fade away. And so you guys are fun. I was looking forward to having some fun. And this narrative that once, it just was so overwhelming to me about like, man, am I going to say the right thing? How are there people going to think about what I'm saying? It just starts to get so small that it just is less important. And so anyways, we had fun with naming it FOPO, fear of people's opinions. And so we had fun going down that path and doing some research around what that thing is.
We'll come into FOPO. I just want to say two things. First of all, thank you for showing up and being so authentic. You can feel it.
Oh, cool.
You're not just talking about this. Sometimes people talk about a concept, a construct, and then you see them off stage and they're just the exact opposite. There's a red thread throughout everything you do. And that's the second question I'd like to pull on a little bit, because some of our audience will know you, some won't. So can we go to purpose? You have said, paraphrase, purpose needs to be bigger than you, future focused, and excite the living daylights out of you. Now, we know from research, purpose is three things, or will do three things. A clearly articulated purpose will help you bounce back from adversity, number one. Two, you're going to make more money. So if you're listening to this, hey, Dolores, these guys are talking about making more money. Yes, you'll make more money. And three, you'll live longer. Why would you not clearly articulate your purpose? So can we pull on that with you? What is your purpose? And how long did that take to articulate? Give our audience a bit of a frame on those things. What's yours? How do you go about finding it?
I'm going to deconstruct this for you. I'm going to give you the answer right now so it doesn't get lost. My purpose is to help unlock the potential that lies dormant within people. So it's like super clear. That's what I am here for. And if you click right underneath of that, it's how. How are you going to do that, Mike? Well, I'm going to help people live in the present moment more often. Okay, well, how are you going to do that? Well, I'm going to take the science, this beautiful science of psychology, the psychology of excellence, if you will, and help make it digestible and help it be something that is available for people that might not be interested in it. How are you going to do that, Mike? Well, I'm going to study my ass off and I'm going to be around world's best. And together we're going to decode it and we're going to hopefully change the narrative about psychology. So I'm not a cool kid, but when I'm next to a cool kid that says, like Mick Fanning, one of the legends in your community, he and I have known each other for a really long time. He's been very public about our work we were doing together when he was competing. And when he says to the surf community and other communities, yeah, what do you mean you're not training your mind? Oh, you're not? Oh, it's time. Hey, young bucks, it's time. So that is all part of the ecosystem that I'm trying to create. Partner with people that have credibility in the space, the cool kids, if you will, make it super snackable and digestible. Help people be in the present moment more often. So that's where all the tools show up so that they can unlock their potential. So they can be in the present moment and say, oh my God, like I love this free feeling. And then if you line all that up towards purpose, you got something. You got something really powerful. Okay, pause there. There's a couple components to purpose that are important, as you mentioned, those three, but there's also some, let's call it cousins to purpose. So purpose is that thing that's bigger than you. It matters. It's got some energy that you need to apply because you can't solve it today. But the cousins to it are, what is this vision? When you use your imagination, what's the vision that you hold for a compelling future? So we need to get our imagination in there to say, if this community, and if I'm great, and me being great and our team being great, if we could really fire on all cylinders, what is a compelling future that lights us up? That's different than purpose. So purpose is, what are you doing here? Why are you going to work so hard? Why are you here in life? So those are some sub questions about purpose. But we also need a vision, and we also need to know our first principles. That's a fancy word for like, what are our values? Because there's lots of ways to quote unquote win in life. Some people are going to say, listen, you got to claw and cheat and, step on people, and you got to do whatever it takes to get ahead. And somebody else might say, no, I think that like this is a collective celebration of people, and like you got to do the quote unquote right thing, and stepping on people and lying and cheating and stealing to get to something. That's not how I want to do it. So first principles, I love values, vision of a compelling future that's awesome, and clarity of your purpose. And then you share those things or ask other people about theirs, you got something. You start getting into like a real teaming approach in life.
And you put that on a one-pager. I'm assuming you then put that on a one page so you've got clarity.
Yeah, so we've got this masterclass on how to train your mind. It's called Finding Your Best, and it's a pretty big program. It's about 16 hours long. It's good. I think we did nice work on that online program. And then we've also built these small little, let's call it 6 to 8 minute videos or courses that have a bunch of paperwork behind it, for you to go and kind of fill it in and get clarity on all those things I just said. I'd love to give it to you guys and kind of beat it up and take a look at it and send back notes or pass it on to, let's do a fun little contest, where we can give one away to some of your folks too.
That sounds great.
Yeah, Dr. Matt, having worked through your course, I think I know the answer to this, but even just the order in which you do these things, the philosophy, the values, the purpose, how important is that, to get to where you want to be? Or can you just delve in, right, I'm just going to work out my purpose today? Or is it more around cultivating your personal philosophy first, with your values? How do you go about that?
I think it's a little bit like, it's a cool question because there's no hacks. There's no steps. There's no secrets.
There is. Come on. There's the 5-minute download, the mnemonic. Yeah, I can't believe you're saying that. Like, what are you doing? What is your marketing department? They're doing cartwheels. Michael, there's got to be a simple plan.
They always want to say like the secrets to high performance, the secrets to living the good life. There's just none. And
I bang my head, mate, when someone says, can you give me the hack? It's like, yeah, work your ass off for 20 years, 25 years. And like Rip Van Winkle, JC said this, you become an overnight success in 20 years.
That's exactly it.
You pressed a nerve with me. The word hack, I feel like I need to have a shower.
Yeah, right. I mean, you don't want your surgeon to be a hack. You don't want your tattoo artist to be a hack. Why would you, why would you want like your coach to be a hack, or why would you want to hack anything? I don't get it at all. But I think it's more like a Panama Canal where it's like you've got these handful of levers and principles and practices that kind of need to work together. So let's say that you've invested in mindfulness and some sort of meditation practice. So you're really aware, but you don't have the skills to be confident. So you're aware that you're a mess, like I was in my first story, but the skills weren't working. So you kind of need a handful of things to work together. So that just takes time. I would say you could start wherever felt natural. If like getting clear on your values was cool, which most people don't go, I want to get my values down. That's not where they really want to start, but it's a necessary component. Most people, when we talk about all of the mental skills and practices that are important for thriving in life, most people want to start with the more easy things to do. Like, okay, tell me the mechanics of confidence. How can I train confidence? How do I become a little bit more calm? And those are relatively mechanical. and they like to start there. So that's cool. We can just kind of take the energy where it is.
I want to go to a LinkedIn post. We've got to talk about Seattle Seahawks a little bit. We said we want to talk about fresh content, but if we finish this, you'll go, you didn't ask him anything about Seattle Seahawks. So Professor Adam Nichols, I'm sure you know, good English lad, and he did a LinkedIn post earlier this week, which was titled The Importance of Self-Discovery. Prior to joining the Las Vegas Raiders, the outgoing Seattle Seahawks head coach Pete Carroll was asked by a journalist what advice he'd give to the next coach, and his answer applies to everyone.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't matter whether it's football or whatever. To me, the essence of being as good as you can be is you got to figure out who you are. And you got to figure out that in a relentless effort to try and get clear about what's important to you. What uncompromising principles do you stand by? What makes you who you are? So that if you don't go through that process, you don't do the self-discovery, then you don't have an opportunity to be your best because you don't know who you are yet.
You're so aligned. Just it feels like your philosophies and principles and Pete Carroll. So it's a good segue.
Yeah,
talk to us about Pete. When you hear that quote, was that your experience?
No. He's great. We spent 9 seasons together, obviously, and so we together ended up building the psychological skills business, together. He's no longer in the business. He stayed in coaching. I went full on into the business, finding mastery is the business. So he's right on the money. And we're going to probably do some stuff. I was just talking to him yesterday. We're going to do some stuff at the Raiders together. So get ready for version 2.0. So it's going to be, I think, really fun.
I asked you when we caught up, just personally last time, will you work with another sporting team? And I won't give the exact answer, but you said yes, a few things would have to line up. So that's exciting. Yeah. So you're starting with the Raiders.
I think so. Yeah, so it's going to be, he's getting the band back together. It's going to be a lot of fun. And so,
did they sell you on Vegas? Like they'll fly you in on a private jet?
Yeah, the whole thing, man. The whole thing is good. Yeah. So yes, he's right on the money. Self-discovery is at the center of the whole thing. It's the big rock to get in the container, because once you know who you are, nobody can ever take it away from you. No circumstance, no outcome, no human can take it away from you. So you know how. I think that human excellence is the ability to be at home with yourself wherever you are. And that requires knowing who you are. And then it requires all these psychological skills to be able to kind of navigate the things that are tripwires for you. And if you can get ahead of those tripwires, it just becomes fatigue. It doesn't really stick with you. Anxiousness and worry don't really stick with you. It doesn't mean that you don't get a little anxious or don't worry about things or you don't have days that you're tired, but they just don't stick. And I'm speaking as a classically trained psychologist. The same skills about elite performance are the same psychological skills for well-being. They are not a different set of skills. They are the same skills. And I'm excited to, roll my sleeves back up with Coach Carroll and figure it out. I just had on the podcast just recently, I interviewed John Schneider from the Seattle Seahawks. And he was Pete's partner for longer than I was. They were at it together. And it's like for him to go through his account of what we were building at Seattle together was really cool as well. So that might be a fun one for you guys to check out.
You've chosen those words purposefully. Consistent championship caliber
football team.
And open that up, because that is not you declaring this is a winning organization. You're saying that we are striving for consistent excellence.
Champions.
Yeah, right? So when you operationalize that and you make that real, how does that come to life in this organization?
It's basically like we want, what are you doing every day to let ownership, fans know that we're getting better. Like we're trying to be ahead of the curve. No, it doesn't always bounce your way, right? Wherever it goes, but it doesn't stop.
But that's why the word calibrate caliber, consistent championship caliber.
Right. So you're right. The fans
stay in the pocket.
The fans know every day that we're gonna have a team that's not gonna be win 2 games or 3 games or something like that.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, we're not trying to get a certain draft pick or tank or there's, you've seen it the NBA that they'll they'll get to a certain point. They'll be like, let's just trade our assets and,
Yeah, let's take a lower record.
Yeah, try to get in the lottery.
Yeah, so we can
it's
get a
kind
better
of a
draft
natural. To me, that's just unacceptable.
Did you see that? And for those watching on YouTube, there was an increase in energy. There was a spark. The young Gervais just come out. Look at him; he's smiling.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's freaking exciting. And for context, like I love corporate work, and I'm sure you love corporate. There's something different though about Pete ringing up and saying, "Hey, come over with the Raiders and let's build this." And you've got a blank canvas, literally, new team, new environment. How cool!
Yeah, you know what's cool about sport, and it can be true in business, but most environments don't purposely create it, is that in sport, you're exposed if you are not doing the job correctly, if you're not holding the standard. First and foremost, it's not what the fans say. It's like, what are the teammates saying? What do they think about what you're doing in practice every day? What are they saying about how you're showing up game day? Like there's a standard there, and that I love that exposing and the visual nature of the results, because it forces, I think locker rooms, now I'm going to get in a little bit of trouble with this, so like bear with me here. I think locker rooms are some of the most honest rooms on the planet. You walk around naked, you know, they know if you're phoning it in, if you're really bringing it, if you're trying your ass off, but you don't have the goods, or you're not trying, and we don't know if you have the goods, or you're like bringing the team forward. Like everybody knows. And so that honesty is so refreshing and is so foundational to having a chance at being great. Now, the other rooms, okay, coaches, here we go. In the same building, the coaches' rooms are not that honest. And now let me crosswalk into business environments. Those rooms are not that honest either. You know, there's like this shape shifting, there's this kind of corporate double speak, and so I'm working my ass off to say, look, make it simple for me. Let's be really honest. Let's support and challenge each other. Let's love each other, you know, from the care standpoint, and hold the standard of excellence in an honest way. It does not mean that you get to stay in this environment. It doesn't mean I get to stay in this environment. I might not be able to bring it. You might not be able to bring it. So we need to have a real supportive relationship so we can challenge each other, you know, in an incredible way. If you get that support and challenge mixed just right, and the outcomes then are visible, then I think there's something that I would feel equally alive in the corporate world as the sport world. And we're getting pretty close in a lot of rooms. So that's why I love, you know, what the corporate world is trying to do, the ones that I'm part of at least.
And Dr. Matt, I remember you saying that Seattle, you knew they were flying when there was no corridor conversations, or those corridor conversations between players and staff were minimized. And is that something that you go after in the corporate world as well as the sporting world? And if so, how do you go about bringing that level of honesty and also a level where players and staff can stop those corridor conversations? How do you get to that level?
Well, I think first and foremost, we have to like explain it, you know, and give examples of what good is and what's not acceptable. And oftentimes when something's really clear, like to one of us, we might say it and then we're like, oh, well, I said it. But it might not be, I might not have said it clearly, or you might not have been available to hear it, or you needed to hear it 6 times or 12 times for it to really kind of get in. So leadership becomes chief repeating officers. And so we have to find clever ways of saying the same thing, just slightly different. And so what we would explicitly do, we had 3 rules at the Seahawks. And Coach Carroll introduced these from day one, which was rule number 1, always protect the team. What does that mean? And then we would go explain it a lot. And one of the ways we would explain it is like, look, if someone's talking about somebody else in the hallways, it's not okay. That's not protecting the team. That's you doing some bullshit about like trying to be close to somebody or complaining, but not having the courage to speak directly to them. Like, stop that shit. So if you're in the hallway and you're talking about somebody else, you're probably wrong, unless you're saying that, you know, he or she is epic. And we would hit that a lot Always protect the team. In other words, be a great teammate to each other. And then we give other examples. Look, if you're at the bar and someone's getting a little wild, maybe have one too many, they're starting to talk a little too loud, grab them. Get them out of there. Get them home. You're always wearing our shirt. Get them out of there. That means in practice, when you're driving somebody, into the end zone, or you're driving off the field, and you can take an extra shove, and you know that it's a little too much. Like, hold up, it's fine. Now with the Seahawks, what Pete was really remarkable at doing is he would take the Lamborghinis of the defense and the Lamborghinis of the offense and collide them in practice, which most teams would go like A's against B's, or ones against twos, and he's like, no, I trust you to be a great teammate. I trust that we're going to work with speed and accuracy, and we're going to take care of each other. We're putting the ones out there.
Amazing.
Every week. And you imagine the pressure when one of our ones kind of gets twisted up and like a little sprain of the ankle or knee because he's going like at 85% or 95%, as opposed to like, he can do a 75 kind of walk-through-ish tempo. So anyways, I hope I answered the question there.
Yeah, so that was number one for our audience 2 and 3 of the rules, just to close that out.
Okay, yeah. No, rule number 2, no whining, no complaining, no excuses. Own your stuff. I don't want to hear it. None of us want to hear it. If you got something to say that sounds like that, we're going to call you out. Right. And then the way we would do it was really fun. So as soon as let's say you guys challenge me on something, I'm like, and I say to you like, no, you know what? My sleep was way off last night, guys. And then all of a sudden the room would be like, we got a rule 2 violator. We got one right here. Get him on the board. There's a fine right here, sitting right here. And so we'd have fun with it. So it wouldn't be like, oh, hey, you just violated number 2 rule. I'm going to report you to the,
You're in the naughty corner.
Yeah, right. We just play with it. And then nobody wants to be kind of called out, even in a fun way. And so that begins to shape culture in a cool way. And then rule number 3 is be early. How do you do that? Get your stuff organized. Get your priorities in place. Don't be the cool kid that's like 30 seconds entering the room, because you're barely able to get you there. Demonstrate that this is important. Be early. Take care of your stuff. It's a simple little demonstration about being part of something bigger than you. And so those are the 3 rules. Always protect your team. No whining, no complaining, no excuses. In other words, own it. And then rule number 3 is be early.
Thanks for that, Mike. Just as a follow-up to that as well, I heard you recently on a podcast talking about releasing the magic of players, and it was something that you hadn't really spoke about too much publicly. Would you be prepared to elaborate a little bit on that in terms of how that came about and what that sort of looked like within a team sport?
It's a cool question. So it begins with this philosophy, if you will, that you have the answers within you. Okay. And it's paralleled with nobody does it alone. So we do need each other to really understand how to take the genius that's lying dormant in you and to bring it out, to take it as far as we possibly can. Now, one of the mechanisms to do that is just for you and I to first calibrate, like, what do you think is possible in your life? What do you think is possible while you're part of this team? And that's what we talk about, like clarity of a compelling future, your vision of what matters most to you here, And so we start to get on the same page that way. And then in all of our conversations, I believe you already hold the answers. So my role is to help to uncover it, to support you, and to challenge you. So bring it forward, figure out ways that I can uniquely support you, and then challenge you right at the edge every day to take it just a little bit further than you thought, take it a little bit further, or maybe challenge you, hey, get your recovery in. You're working as hard as you possibly can. Get your ice in, get your nutrition right, get your sleep in. Come on now. So it's support, challenge. And then the other thing is I want to show you, I want to give you as much creative evidence that what you hold that's really special, that only you can have because of your unique experiences in life and your unique DNA and the way that you're using your physical and mental skills. I want to show you as often as I possibly can what great looks like, what flashes of brilliance looks like. And so that's in sport, we get to use film. And in non-sporting environments, and I'll make this super concrete in a minute, in non-sporting environments, I found the formula is 3 words. That, yes, that. Okay. Dr. Cohen at the United States Olympic Committee introduced this to me a long time ago. And he says, great coaching is simple as spotting what's good, that. And you say it to the kid, to the athlete, to your teammate, what, that. And then usually the athlete goes, this, yes, that. Like, that's like, do that again. And then if we can catch people being in those kind of moments of brilliance, and it doesn't interrupt them, but we're able to highlight it in the moment, within 45 minutes, within 6 hours, and then within 24 hours. So those are kind of the windows that we're working from a gold standard of feedback loops, high performance feedback loops. And we want to use as many means as we possibly can. We want to point it out visually. We want to give them some game tape. We want to celebrate in front of other people, whatever we can do to like remind them and show them and cultivate and hydrate the specialness that only you possess. Only you, based on your unique, crazy life that you've somehow made it here into this locker room or this boardroom. All I want to do is like just show up on a consistent basis, trying to be your very best, and then trust that we're going to take care of each other as we go. And that doesn't mean that you're going to have a job forever. That does not mean that. There's a standard here. And so we might have a hard conversation later, but there will be no surprises. And so it's a first principle for me in business and in sport and relationships, no surprises. It's too flippin' serious. No surprises.
Can I do 2 things? One, can we just check in? And 2, I've got a question because Shannon, our researcher, has done so much research and I've used none of the questions. Sorry. That's so bad because he's going to be spiraling if I don't. So thank you, Shannon. I love the work you do. So check in. How awesome is this? Like I can feel the vibrations from you. He's a grumpy guy, like football. Like he's got a persona underneath it. He's a teddy bear. You're sitting here loving this, and Mike, this is a masterclass for us. I just want to say thank you, a heartfelt thank you for being so authentic and genuine and having a real conversation, not press play. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, man. I'm glad you guys, it's easy with you guys because I know you're walking the talk and talking the walk. And, there is a language of high performance. There's a language of mastery. And when people speak the same language, it's cool. And you guys, I think we're speaking the language right now. So thank you for that.
I've got a question based on the wonderful research that Shannon has done. Legend Willie McGuinness, talking about the mental aspects of sport. You speak about a number of bullet points. So the question is going to be, to give you time to articulate, what would you do differently at the Raiders from what you did at Seattle Seahawks? So upon reflection, you said to Willie, the key to building a winning team is learning from competitors, that difference between identity and performance. You talk about your purpose-based identity and performance-based identity, positive messaging, mindset shift and all the mental skills that sit underneath that, and decoupling identity from performance. So question, what would you do differently, knowing what you know now, as you walk into a blank canvas with Pete at the Raiders?
Yeah, cool question. I would do all of that stuff. And as you played it back, I'm like, man, that sounds like gobbledygook. So I got to do a better job of making it really simple, and there's one thing that sticks out the most. So I want to be super clear. What I'm trying to do is to quite simply help people be their very best, to be a great teammate to each other, and to see how far we can take all of our potential together. Like that's what I want to do. There's technical skills to get better at, there's physical skills to get better at, and there's mental skills to get better at. So we need to make this really simple, digestible, easy, to understand, but recognize that it's actually hard to invest at the edge, because it's just hard to operate at that space. And the edge is like when you're not very proficient. It's kind of where you could fall into 1,000 pieces, you're not very good at what you're doing, but there's an unlock in there and you just got to keep staying at it. Again, technically, physically, or mentally. So I would play all that stuff back. But the thing that stings is that I think we did a great job, world-class job at helping people believe they're capable of being great. Better than I've ever seen it done. We had psychology and mental skills in the rhythm of business. It was part of our culture. We were honestly knowing each other, supporting and challenging each other. Like, it was great, but we did not prepare each other for failure, quote unquote failure. I'm going to put an asterisk next to my definition of it. But when we ended up winning the Super Bowl, and it felt like every other game. So I think we did a great job of not making any game a big game. Matter of fact, in preseason, we would say, this is the most important game of your life. And then we would get to practice on Tuesday and we'd say, or Monday, this is the most important practice of your life. And then we get to Wednesday, this is the most important practice of your life. And then we get to team meeting, this is the most important team meeting of your life. This is the only one you get right now. So we ended up creating this rich appreciation for be in this moment. So when we arrived at the Super Bowl, the circus, the greatest, biggest, if you will, to the commentators' sporting event in our sport, we saw it like every other day. We saw it like it's just another game. It was remarkable. But we did not prepare individuals or the team in general on how to deal with quote unquote failure. So when we got back to the Super Bowl the second year, which is extremely hard to do, and we lost in dramatic fashion.
Dramatic understatement, like at the
half
razor's
yard
edge,
line.
game there to be won, a critical decision.
A seconds to go on the half-yard line, and we turn the ball over.
Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Unreal. Malcolm Butler, who almost made the phenomenal play that wound up in Percy's arms. There are flags on the field for a celebration. Amazing.
Right after that, we're in the locker room. I've never seen or experienced the intensity of agitating emotions at the scale that was happening in that locker room. It was, I'll use the word again, it was remarkable. It was incredible. 6'8" is crying. 6'6" is like overwhelmed, just he's glassy eyed looking around for an answer. 6'3" next to me is unraveling his wraps around his hand and he's screaming, "Why?" Looking right at the head coach. 6'4" in the background was kind of laughing because he didn't know what else to do. The 86-year-old owner, previous owner, I should say, not the current, but the previous owner was right next to me, like full tears. And he says, he leans over, he goes, "This one's going to sting." It was the most intense sadness, anger, agitation, unsettledness that I've ever felt, full tilt. And we didn't recover. We thought we were going to, but that level of trauma, we did not prepare the men in that room to deal with the quote unquote failure. We didn't have the right framework to deal with that type of, you could call it whatever, adversity, loss, whatever. So the reason I'm putting
didn't recover the next
we did
year,
not,
or didn't
no.
recover ever. They're two different things.
No, I don't.
Right?
Yeah, I think it took 3 years for us to settle back into not dealing with the trauma. It was so difficult for everybody, but there was about 6 to 8 folks that it was deeply traumatic. And it triggered something really deep. And we were using a concept from Native Americans called longbody. And so we are one body. We are a long body. We are connected in a deep way as a team. And if one of us is hurting, we're all hurting at some level. And we had 6 that were alphas that were hurting. And usually when a grown man is hurting, it comes out as anger. As a psychologist, I know if somebody is pissed off or frustrated or intolerant, right underneath the surface is that they're sad. They're scared. One of those two. And we had that mix that was clouded by the anger. We cared for each other. And so looking back, we probably needed to cut a few of the guys. We probably needed to say either you're going to do the work to heal from this loss, or we're not talking about this anymore in this way. You need to go do the work, whether it's with Mike or somebody else, or get with somebody to get the healing going. And if not, I'm sorry. And that sounds cold, but we took it too far because we thought we could get that change. We thought we could heal together. It just took a long time. And unfortunately, I think our best team was the year after the loss. I think it was the best collection of talent, but we couldn't access it. We couldn't, it's the one that got away, if you will.
I can feel that with you. There's still, it's a resonance, isn't it? It drops.
Yeah.
You can feel it.
Well, I think a lot of it, I'm one of 100 men in the organization, and I feel like I could have done a better job. I didn't know either. I didn't know how to prepare for loss. And so I'm glad I experienced it, and so I understand winning. I understand losing. And that's what I want to do. I want to prepare humans in this life to be better with loss. And I don't call it failure. I don't think we failed. I think we tried our very best. My definition of failure is the inability or unwillingness to go for it. And we were not unwilling. We were ready. We let it rip. We went for it. There was no hesitation in what we were doing. It just didn't line up. Now, if you give us another quarter, 2 quarters, another game, it's going to be a same kind of thing. It's going to come right down to the wire. So I don't think we failed. We just didn't know how to deal with loss. So that leads me to believe that maybe we didn't do the right job to prepare for that philosophy I was sharing earlier, that victory and defeat, they're imposters. They are not the real thing. Let's go on this path of mastery together. And I think I was just shy of that. I think we were just shy of it. So yeah, so that's it. That's what I want to do better. Next go.
I appreciate the delicacy in the story as well, even calling out 6'8", 6'4". So you're maintaining the privacy of the people. But
of course.
You guys, go there and you can, you've painted the scene in the change room. Graphic.
Yeah, amazing. Michael, just sort of change track a little bit, we're just aware of our time, but it'd be remiss, I think, just to not talk a bit more deeply around fear and sort of fear of people's opinions and ultimately fear of public failure. Probably, I think, we speak and have spoke to the boys around where high performance lives, and it's those moments of courage, real courage and how you work through it. Fear's always there, but how you work through it. And, going back to Brené Brown, you start with vulnerability, but given that fear's sort of doused in shame of maybe previous experiences and what potentially could come, how do we touch it, mate? How do we get there? Where do we start with this stuff? And is it just more of around the self-awareness? But is there a process in terms of what you bring in and how we work towards the courage when we're doused in fear and almost paralyzed at times?
It's cool because you're hitting on all the really hot and intense kind of stuff here, which is like vulnerability and courage are cousins. And I think the great courage is being vulnerable, especially with a teammate or a peer or somebody that you need to give something of value to another person. That's what vulnerability is. I'm going to give you my trust. I'm going to give you like a story that I'm a little embarrassed by or that was hard for me to work through. And I'm going to share a piece of me with you. I don't know if you're going to use it against me. I don't know. So that's where vulnerability and courage line up. I have to have the courage to be vulnerable. So if we want people to be courageous on the field, we also need to practice it off the field. And so that is like simple. It's simple to understand. It's like you got to open up and have real conversations. And in the pace of the schedule of sport and business, like, where's the time for that? So, you got to create it. You got to create those moments and opportunities to do that. And then I just want to hit on the fear thing is I sometimes just hearing from people we respect that they too wrestle with fear, it can just settle us down. So when you talk about your fears, the things that kept you up at night, and how you experience the fear and how you didn't do a great job of dealing with it. Like maybe you drank too much, or maybe you were distracted by this, that, or the other, or maybe you made some excuses, or maybe you're just kind of too pissed off to really get to the deeper, more powerful part of you, and you stay kind of at the surface of like whatever. I don't know what your experience there would be, but like if you can create some air cover where they can see an alpha talk about the hard things to talk about, it settles the boys down where it's like, yeah, him too, and there's not one person in that locker room that doesn't know exactly what we're talking about.
You did that well in our preseason. You got up and spoke to the boys when we started introducing this concept. So, and you displayed this beautifully today. Like, if you look at the cadence of our interview, started upbeat, bang, bang, bit of fun. Said, I like interviewing with you clowns. Did he say clowns?
Not yet.
That's good. Look at his response. But then you dropped into that. So that's a beautiful example for our audience because you've been authentic. You've actually brought that to this interview. Hey, Conscious, you've got an NFL sports psychology program to kick off with the Raiders. Is that public? Is this groundbreaking?
No. We're actually no. It'll be something. We don't know what yet. So we're in this like this shaping the contract right now. So I don't know. It could all fall apart. Who knows? But the spirit is right, and we're excited to run it back again.
It'll happen. You got the band back together, and you got a global business to run. So conscious of your time.
Wait, hold on, real quick before you guys go to the last question here.
He's holding. This is good. He's saying, no, don't wrap me up. Don't wrap me up.
Yeah, let's stay in it. Like I'm having a good time. Like what is it that you are afraid of?
Probably exactly what you wrote your book about. People's opinions. If I don't reach the levels that I've probably held myself to for a long time, and be so ultimately successful. But and how people view success, I think, and whether I've been successful. It's definitely around going back to playing, Michael, to sort of that. My performances were high. I played at a high level, I played from a country, all that. But I never hit the levels consistently enough. That was what it was. And it was because I was worried around selection, what the fans would think. Am I playing well enough? Have I done enough work? There was all these things, but ultimately it was around, as you say, what people's opinions were going to be of me if I didn't reach that level.
And then take another turn at, like, where did that come from for you? Because you weren't born that way. You're born this free little spirit, and so was I. But we learned it. And so this will be part of your story. Where'd you learn it? And I learned it from, I learned it that when my parents would go out into the community, all of a sudden they would kind of notch up and present. So I felt like, I had to notch up and present to be okay, to be accepted. But I was like detaching from like this more grounded, this more, I don't know, more humble, approach. So that I learned it young, and I didn't realize I was learning it. But like sometimes we learn it from, like, if I would have had a dad that was saying things like, look, that's just not good enough, son. But I did have a moment where my dad said to me, and I'm going to come back to you as you're gathering your stuff. I had a moment, this is going to make perfect sense for you guys, is that I was struggling with spelling. I was in 4th grade. I couldn't quite get it right. Grades were not good. My mom's over my left shoulder, like saying, what do you mean you can't spell this word? And I was like, I don't know. And I couldn't spell it. It was like the word and or something, and I was like, and so she calls in my dad. He's irritated. He's probably hungover or, whatever. When he was drunk, he was so much fun. Oh my God, was he fun. I mean, we had, he was awesome. Now, but he comes over hot because his wife is being agitated by me. So he comes over my right shoulder and he leans in and goes, son, how do you spell it? I said, I don't know. He goes, try. And I tried and it was wrong. And he says, he leans over, he's talking over me to my mom. And he says, babe, maybe he's just stupid. Holy shit, did that get in? And I'm not mad at my parents. They're still alive. I love my parents. They did their very best. But stuff gets in for all of us. So he said that, and I was like, fuck you. And I looked up and I was like, I'm not stupid. But then I looked down and I was like, I don't know how to spell this thing. And so it was kind of the beginnings of me going, all right, what am I doing here? So what I need to do is I need to cut it up. I need to be a distraction to maybe my stupidness. So I broke a lot of rules. I found action sports, which made it, much easier. And then when I got a little bit older, I said, now I'm in high school, let's say, don't look at me, Look at how good I am. So nobody would talk about me, Mike. They would talk about, not my grades, because it was about sport. I was like, look at my performance. And then when it got into college, it was about look at my grades, less about sport, because I didn't have what it took to get to the pros. Look at my performance. And then when I got into professional life, it was like, look how smart I am. Look how much I can build. But it was so maniacal that it took me really far to do my research, and I ended up getting really good. But the cost of it, here you go, guys, right? The cost of this was that I didn't know myself. I was full of shit. I didn't like myself. And I was so self-absorbed to be okay in the eyes of others that my wife says to me 7 years into our marriage, like, you got to go. This is the love of my life. You got to go. What are you talking about? She goes, I can't be me around you. It's all about you. I said, holy shit. I'll fix it. I'll do better. She goes, I've tried. I've told you. So now this early child trauma, if you will, this innocuous little moment that I was stupid, led me to this, don't look at me, look at my performance, led me to like really understanding like excellence, because I needed it desperately. How about it, guys? I needed it desperately, that it ruined my marriage. I ruined my marriage because of it. And so I love this woman. And I said, she's crying, and she says, as a friend, I'm asking you, please leave. So there's no confusion about it. I had to go. And I know as a psychologist that separation is the beginning of divorce. So I'm calling and texting as often as I can. And I know that some of your listeners are like, who cares about this story? But what I'm trying to animate here is that if we don't get down into like the depths of what is causing, what's amplifying our behaviors to be great or to whatever, I'm still in love with figuring this psychology shit out. But it's no longer about, I hope you like me. It's more about like, can I make a difference? Can I bring something into your life that's going to help you? And so I'm sharing this because I know you and Susie listening and who's ever listening, that you got your shit too now. We're all in this thing, just trying to figure it out. You got your traumas, and if you think that your performance is going to be the solver of it, it's going to be a limiter.
And as a psychologist, there's that self-awareness, knowing what to do, and self-regulation, doing it. And when you know and you don't do it, that's tough, right? So then you get that sucker punch for the woman you love saying, hey, pack your bags, champ. I know this. I've studied clinical psychology, but if you're not doing it, it doesn't matter how much you know.
Yeah, 100%. So here's a turn of the story, is that I called her 3 weeks later and I was like, come on, one therapy session. She's like, I'm fucking done. I said, just one. We owe it to each other. We dated for 7 years. We were married at 7 years, 14 years in. We owe it to each other. And she was fine. Now she's full-blooded Latina. I'm Italian. So we sit down in front of a therapist, and the therapist about halfway through the session goes, okay, calm down. Like we're screaming, we're animated about the whole thing. She goes, this is as bad as it gets. And she goes, Mike, you need to do some work? I was like, yeah. Lisa, you need to do some work? She goes, yeah. She goes, I'm going to ask you one question. Do you want to do the work with another partner, or do you want to do the work together? I said, fuck, I got hope here. I got a shot. But I knew I couldn't go first. Talk about vulnerability. I had to not try to influence this woman to like, so I just sat there, felt like an eternity. And I look over at her, and she's very clearly, with these beautiful bright eyes, she goes, I'm not doing this work with anyone else. I don't trust that he wants to do the work. No, wait, I don't trust he will do the work. I know he says he wants to, but I don't trust he'll do it. And I thought, I got a shot. I just need to do the work. So when I say to you guys, it's about the work, it's about doing the psychological work to be your very best. It's so clear to me that it's about doing the training, doing the work. And so we're still married. We did it.
How many years?
Yeah, we're like at 30 some now.
Yeah, so I don't think we celebrate that enough.
Thanks for sharing that, mate, as well.
That's a great example.
Yep.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, when people ask me like, when is there any secrets? Back to that thing. And I go, no, there's no secrets. And they go, well, what is it about high performers? Is there a golden thread? Is there a thing? I go, what I'm answering for the last like 2 or 3 years, I go, yeah, it's the people in their lives.
I'm so glad you unwrapped my rap.
Yeah, how about it? I go, it's the truth tellers. If you're not around truth tellers, you ain't going very far.
Yeah. Let's wrap with the flip, because you've been so generous in your time today, and
Thanks,
you
guys.
will have other things to go towards. Is there a question in preparation for this or a question you thought we might ask that we haven't? Or the flip, is there a question you want to finish and ask us?
Yeah, like I'll do the last one. When I think about like people that are interested in this field, I really want to understand why. And I'm trying to sort out one of two things. And is it some trauma that you're still in, that you're trying to have a position of like power and control? Or is it some insight where you're like, oh my God, this is so good. Like, how can I not share this berry that I found from the highest tree on the edge of the cliff that I almost died for? How can I not share how good this berry is? Like, so, and you guys can be in either place. For 20 some years, I was on that side of like, I'm still I'm still in phase 1 of my trauma, And so just anyway, wherever you guys are, that's what I'd be curious to know what your orientation is.
That's a really rich question.
Yeah. I'll tell you where it came from as you're gathering your thoughts. Early in my life, one of my mentors said to you, I was just graduating my PhD program, and he's awesome. And he pulls me aside and he goes, hey, Mike, kind of a hallway conversation. What gives you the right to think that you're going to help anybody in this life? I go, oh my God, I got to answer that. I go, I don't think I have the right. I go, but I think I have something to offer. He goes, yeah, based on what? And he was provocatively like saying, dude, they hold the answer. You don't hold their answers. Like that's what he was getting at. Like, don't give advice, Mike. Don't even get down that path. You've got no right. Like you're living a good life, but you have no right giving advice. So get that shit out of your head. So anyways, what's your orientation?
Do you want to start, or do you want me to go?
Yeah, you go, mate. I'm thinking deeply about that question. It's a good question. I might even have to answer it when you come for a coffee in Australia.
Okay, good.
We've got a game tonight. I reckon you're going to come up to me halftime just before you rent the place up. That question, it's ticking ahead.
It could be that.
JC, my advice to you, just get mindful, champ. Just be present. The boys need you. As you were saying that story about your dad, I just went to me. At 13 years of age, won another state championship middle distance running. And driving back from Sydney, 2 gold and a bronze. We tend to celebrate bronze, right? We lose gold when you get silver. Another conversation another day. And I can remember my dad saying in the car, because my brother was there as well, and he said, look, I won't say too much in front of your brother because I don't want to over sort of celebrate this. So that one moment was like, fuck, I just want Dad's approval. I massively over-indexed, I reckon, for the next 20 years in my life. And it wasn't until I studied performance psychology, or back doing a master's around coaching psychology, that I had that epiphany. Oh my God, I have massively over-indexed. I didn't even know what the term was. Yeah. And then the second thing for me, the second thread, is I did my best races. This is not an unfamiliar story, Michael, to someone you know pretty well. I did my best races in low-key meets, and when it came for the big meets, I choked. So if I'm with a young boy or a girl, or someone like our mutual friend Matt Common, who said to say hello, working with Matt behind the scenes, I don't want people to leave unfulfilled potential on the track, because for me, it's frickin' personal. Now, I can sit here and say it was a gift looking back. They're the two things for me: over-indexing, and then realising I'd probably been a bit of a knob for a number of years. Apologise to anyone who's still hung around. And then it is really personal. So I want young men and women, and older young men and women as well, to really tap their potential, because that shit lights me up.
Yeah, cool. There you go. JC, where are you going with it?
Yeah, I'll start at the end. There's definitely something around unlocking potential, but I think the desire for that is probably deeply personal as well. Having had a good career, but not a great career. I won't go down as a great at the game, but I was a good player. So I think that certainly drives that aspect of where I'm at now, trying to ask more questions and understand where the people you're working with are at, rather than trying to display your knowledge onto them, is something I purposely try and do. One thing that came up for me was when you were talking about your childhood, was the journeys home. After I used to BMX, and then I played rugby at a real high level, obviously, those journeys home, like when things hadn't gone right, I think from what they have had an impact in terms of how I want to be seen, almost, and the people's opinions. So, and I'm on the back of this conversation, I'm gonna unpack that. I do want to say a little bit like you as well. My mum and dad have been so supportive. There's no regret there, but those things have an impact, whether we like it or not, don't they?
Oh, full on. Yeah, man. I love knowing where people come from, because it just kind of gives an honest appreciation for where we're trying to go.
You started there, you finished there. What a beautiful close.
Yeah, guys. You guys are great. Thank you for including me in what you guys are doing. And I'm wishing the best for you and your community, flat out.
Thank you. Today's been a delight, and I will go and have another coffee and
Thanks,
unpack.
mate. That was great.
And
loved it.
When you are here, we're going to come and pick you up. We're not going to have any work talk. We're just going to pick you up early one morning. We're going to go to the beach. We're going to walk, swim, paddle, whatever we do, have a coffee, and extend a little bit of hospitality for you when you're in our beautiful country.
How's your swimming, mate?
How's my swimming? Yeah, it's good. Yeah, we can get after it. Yeah.
Well, you two can. Yeah. I'll paddle behind.
Yeah, good.
JC swims like an Englishman. It makes me feel good, because when we get on the footy field, it soon switches back, doesn't it? Show me a cutout pass, Maisie. All right.
Yeah, good. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.